Welcome everyone to this new podcast episode. Today we are joined by one of our new fellow reefers, Zander. Just like me, he's relatively new to the hobby and also has quite a relatively easy to set up tank that should hopefully inspire a lot of our new fellow hobbyists who are wanting to join us in the hobby and are a bit scared by some of those larger tanks. So welcome, Zander.
Hello, thank you.
It's great to have you. Obviously, you've got quite a big joy for the hobby, but what first caught your interest and why did you want to start your own tank?
Yeah, so it's between me and my fiance, I'll say that. So we've been talking about it for a long time, and initially it was the decision of, okay, what kind of tank are we going to get? Because she likes freshwater, I like saltwater, or at least the idea behind it and everything. I'll say it's been like a good 2 years of us thinking about what we're going to do. And then we found one of those specials. I don't know if I'm allowed to name company names, but we found a special for small tanks. So we bought those 500 Rand small tank specials. We like as a kit. So she got a freshwater, I got a saltwater. So that's pretty much
cool.
how that happened. So yeah, they basically sit right next to each other in our bedroom, so we can look at them both together.
That's very cool. What drew you more to the saltwater compared to the freshwater?
I'm gonna say that stereotypical Finding Nemo thing. I like clownfish. I like the look of clownfish. I pretty much intend on only sticking to clownfish.
Okay.
People have always told me, "Yeah, I'll grow into the others," and I have like no intention. I am happy with my two little clownfish. They're doing their thing. But yeah, for I think marine specifically, the ideas of corals wasn't initially always part of the tank. I'll say that. It was always going to be centered around just fish. You'll see when I show you my tank later. It's not the typical setup. I'll say that. And then corals just happened. So a good thing, I'll put it that way. And they're going strong. But yeah, I think it's very much for me, just the clownfish. I'm gonna say that like that. The way I see them move, the way I see them interact with each other is just different from other fish. I'm gonna say.
They always like to keep you on your toes as well, those clowns.
Yeah, and like
they always doing something new.
typical couple, you know. She keeps him in place, and they're constantly fighting with each other. But no, otherwise it's all good.
And you said you originally weren't wanting corals, and now you slowly are getting in there. I know I think you've got some GSP just put in there now recently. What levitated you towards wanting to add some corals?
So initially, when I bought my clowns, the shop I was buying from had a nice feature tank and everything, and then where they cut out, frags and everything, and I saw this very, very lonely piece of GSP, really not looking too happy. Kind of went up to the people. I was like, "Hi," because I had reserved my fish, so my fish was sitting reserved in the tank on the side, and I was like, "That piece of coral looks like it needs a better home," and they were like, "Yeah, it isn't doing too well." They were thinking of throwing it away, so I was like, "My tank's empty, I'll take it," and they bagged it up. They said it's free. There you go. They weren't even going to charge me for it. The person had to walk me to the cashier and say to the cashier, "Don't worry, it's free. It's basically dying." And then since then, it's done so well. I think they made a loss. This thing is flourishing. So I don't know how they killed a piece of GSP, but it's going.
Yeah, true. And then, obviously, when it came to planning and building the tank, what was your kind of thoughts and thinking around how to go about it? Was it just because of the tank special and then you kind of went from there? Or?
Yeah, so I think it was always budget orientated. So you'll see when I show you later, it is very minimal. It is very easy to maintain. I'm going to say that as well. That was always the goal of, I don't want to struggle with certain things because it's such a small tank as well. The glass is very thin and not your typical marine glass. This is, I'm going to call like 3, maybe 4 mils. So I was scared about rocks and stuff. If a rock fell over, what's it going to do to the glass? Um, so I did a lot of research, I'll say that. ChatGPT is my second assistant, or I should say my first assistant. I don't have
Same.
a different one. Um, and went through everything, went through videos, went through everything. So eventually I settled on um, buying a bag of just the aragonite. I went for that sugar fine one. I like the look of sand. I didn't want like pebbly look. Um, and then I'm a gardener. So I was like, well, if I'm not going to have rocks, what am I going to do? So I was like, I've got a lot of ceramic pots, clay pots. I'm going to use them. So they were clean and everything. They hadn't been used for gardening yet. So I was like, great. Gave them like a thorough rinse, probably like 3 rinses, and put them in. And it looked good. So I was like, I'm going to get some more. So I got some more from the shop, put them in, and then kind of did a thing with the sand to kind of not make it look flat, which is nice because it's holding that shape, which I like. And then that was pretty much my idea of the setup behind it. And then I put the piece of green star polyps just on top of the pots, hoping one day it'll attach. I don't think it has yet. I'm 2 months in with that piece in, and every now and again it kind of comes loose. So, because that's also something I haven't done. I have no glue or anything. I have no putties because I didn't buy rocks. I was like, well, if I'm not buying rock, I don't need any of that stuff. And then I clicked, well, that stuff is also used for coral. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of just it's doing well. It's in a stage of where it's growing out. So I'm kind of hoping it just attaches itself.
That's good.
But yeah, that's pretty much the groundwork of it.
Yeah, that was one of the first things that caught my attention with your tank was obviously how budget friendly it can be. I was pushed off for quite a couple of months because I've also got a similar sort of tank just lying around from the old freshwater days.
Yeah.
And you'd speak to all these experts and they'd be like, no, you need to then add a sump and this and that and these lights. And then you're speaking like 5-6 grand for this 400 rand tank.
Yep.
But it actually can be done for a lot less. And I also thought it was quite interesting. You said it's quite low maintenance, which normally you hear the smaller tanks they'll say is a lot less stable, a lot more maintenance needing to be done, which I think to a point is correct. But
no, I'm gonna say I've been pleasantly surprised. I prepared myself for extreme maintenance, considering it was so small. This thing is so easy. My biggest maintenance is cleaning the glass, which everybody has to do. That means nothing for tank size, and then filling with fresh water. I'm gonna say what I've learned. The thickest sand is basically my anaerobic zone, where there's no oxygen. So that's where my anaerobic bacteria is. I don't need the live rock. My bacteria is in the sand. So it is because it's so deep of sand and so much sand for such a small tank. It's actually almost like I've got too much organic filtration in a sense. So my pneumonia is 0. My phosphates is 0. All of that stuff. It's doing so well. I don't struggle with algae blooms or anything like that. The only time I really struggle is when I overfeed, and that's my fault. So can you blame the small tank then? It's when I'm busy and I'm like, I don't have time to really measure, and I just throw. That's when I start seeing issues, and it's really nothing bad. It's like okay, start feeding less, let my snails clean it up a bit. But I'll be very honest. I've been very pleasantly surprised for how little maintenance this has been. It's because the expected maintenance of cleaning filters and everything, making sure the temperature's fine. But I don't even test weekly anymore. Okay, I am only 2 months in, but I'm so happy with it. And yesterday when I checked, measurements were happy. So I was like, great, I'm not going to check it for another week or 2 because the fish are happy. I'll say there's a little bit of a hair algae going, but that is just the tank settling in. And I'm kind of letting it grow because I want to then get a small hermit crab or something in the future. So there needs to be food for him. It can't just be nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of just letting things happen. Um, Also, just because it's such a easy tank to then pick up if anything does happen. In my bedroom, I walk past this thing 5 million times a day, and I see, oh yeah, that looks good still, and happy days move on. If I see something's iffy, I have a little paintbrush that I clean things with. Pick up my paintbrush and I dust it off. If I don't want the hair growing in that area, I dust it off before it like locks on, and happy days. So I will say that it has been surprising how little maintenance it's been and how easy it's been, especially. But maybe the maintenance I do is more than what people expect.
And then you just run hang on back filters, is that correct?
Yeah, so initially I started with the small all-in-one filter that you just drop into the water that came with the kit. Tiny little thing, but it was rated for the tank. And I'll say the only reason I got rid of it, when I got rid of that, I've got the hang-on filter. It was really struggling to like scrub the water in a sense of clearing it up, getting the clarity that I was looking for. I'll say that's been something I've been very strict about, is the clarity of my water. It was filtering just fine because it was a smaller thing. I was just cleaning the filter floss more often, which is fine. But so I went for the hang on. I saw, because I know the freshwater side of the community, hang on filters are the go to thing. They are so easy. So I looked literally for the smallest one. It's the Tidal 35. And so it's got a sponge at the bottom, and then I put a piece of normal filter floss just for scrubbing, and then it came with biomedia, and then I've got a little extra bag of biomedia in there, and this thing is rock solid, absolutely rock solid. So I've kept the old pump filter in the tank as well. That's now my wave maker. I've just taken literally the sponge and everything out of it. It's an empty basket, and that's just so my fish don't go into it. So that's my wave maker. So that's blowing one direction, and then my hang on the back is like making a little vortex in front of it. I don't think it was needed. I think if I was probably patient enough, the small one would have worked. But just how easy the hang on the back has been for me as well. In these 2 months, I've cleaned it once. So okay, I did get it early in like week 3, so it's been a month and a bit. But also I've only got 2 fish, so there is only so little bio load that's going into the tank, and then. But I would say other than that, pretty much my setup, and then the heater, which is a small 30-watt heater because it's only so many liters anyway.
Yeah. Oh, that's excellent, especially because often people like to trash the hang-on back filters and all that. So it's actually quite cool to see how much you can actually do with such a simple piece of equipment, especially in the salts.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing is the community was very guiding. I didn't do anything until I spoke to somebody. So I always ask people like, hey, what do you use? What do you use? I think before I bought this filter, I spoke to like 6 different people in the group, and I'll be honest, a lot of people were gunning down the filter, and they said don't, rather just get a wave maker and let your organic filtration just do its job. But that doesn't do the scrubbing that I want. Told myself, absolutely worst case scenario, my second tank one day, because we all know what you don't stop at one. My second tank one day, I will then explore other options for, because I've had the idea of kind of linking the two together, because the Tidal 35 is just so overrated for my small tank.
Yeah.
So I can say that it is very overpowered, I should say, not overrated. So absolute worst case scenario, I'll probably end up getting another small tank just because we have limited space at home. So it's another $500. And then if I link the 2 tanks, I can do something else in the other tank, because the sand in this one is just so thick. The hang on the back is so good. My heater is running maybe 5% of the day. I've put a little wattage measurement on my multi-plug. This thing barely pulls any power. So if I added another tank next to it and shared water between the two, there's going to be 0 issues.
It's very cool. And you obviously mentioned maintenance is quite low. What does your weekly or bi-weekly schedule kind of look like?
So I would say not necessarily every day. I'll say every 2 out of 3 days. I literally have a paintbrush from the shop, like a normal, these
Yeah.
little cheapy ones that where the bristles are decently hard. Um, that's what cleans my glass for me. Except for the when it really
Never thought of
starts
that.
to. Sorry.
I've never thought of that. That's actually
Yeah,
quite
no, it
clever.
works amazingly, and it lets me like reach in deep. Reason why I don't have a sponge is because I accidentally used my actual sponge on the freshwater tank, and I just haven't cleaned it because we only bought the one. So I was like, buy another or just use the paintbrush, and then the paintbrush worked. So I'm like, why buy a sponge then?
Yeah.
I haven't needed any blades or anything. My two nerite snails have cleaned the glass perfectly for me of the stuff the paintbrush does not get off. So the little bit of a tougher film algae that grows, they've been able to handle. Um, then I do check my hang on the back filter just to make sure it's still happy about once a week. I open it up, I just see what the inside does look like. It does have a little float sensor to tell you that it's getting clogged. But so I don't necessarily clean it until I see that float sensor telling me to. I'll do a little bit of I shouldn't say dusting down, but you know the little the word I'm looking for, shmoo. That on the top of your water line where it kind of
I,
sticks to the glass. I don't know what you can
the
call that.
salt. Yeah.
Yeah, but where it's
Like
just your salt, that bubble mixture, that foam stuff, and then it kind of just
the
cakes.
residue.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I literally take the paintbrush, dip it in the water, and I brush it off. My then the skimmer that's attached to the filter picks up whatever's on the surface that's floating around, takes it away, and happy days, in 15 minutes it's gone. I take a cloth to the outside of the glass, also probably about once a week, maybe twice a week, if my hands have been dirty. I try and wash my hands before I do anything in the tank. I say wash, I just rinse. I don't want any soap or anything like that. I check my salinity about once a week only. Because I did a little bit of maths, I put a little piece of masking tape on the side of my tank. So when the water level drops, that's my salinity marker. I know what salinity it's
Okay.
reaching when my water evaporates. So I did a little bit of maths to figure that one out. So I know when it reaches my tape, I just add fresh water, and I can expect my salinities to be in a certain spot. Um, and so far, it's been working well. I also do run a lid on my tank, the lid that came with the kit, and that keeps my evaporation.
Pretty low.
I would say I put in 2 liters a week.
It's
So
pretty
I
decent.
buy the 5 liter refills from the shop. I take my little water barrel because the shop refills are supposed to be RI water, so it works. And because it's fresh water, clean water, I can use it for both tanks. Then when I do water changes, that's when the kit comes out really. So I have then two 25-liter barrels, of which I have salt water from the aquarium, so they filter it and everything like that. So I know it's good water. It's what they would use in their
Yeah.
tanks. So I fully trust them. It's funny enough, they mix their own water for their reef tank. They don't take seawater, so it probably says. But yeah, so then I've got a little bit of a kit of when I do a water change, and that's purely for when I see things aren't happy in the tank. If I see it starting to get cloudy, because I am still messing around with light, the time frames and the intensity and everything. So when I do see I'm starting to get a little bit of an algae bloom, I'll do a water change, and nothing crazy. I'm probably doing maximum 5 liters because the tank is so small. You don't want to shock it
Yeah.
too much. Yeah, clownfish are decently hardy. They can probably handle it if they needed to, but I just tell myself do a water change tomorrow and do another one in a day or two's time if you need to do it a lot. So then I've got a little piece of airline. I like the thinner tubing so that it doesn't cause too much disturbance. I'd rather have my tank filling for an hour if it needs to on the small little trickle than everything
Yeah.
just blasting away from such a thick tube. So yeah, I'll drain it all out. While I'm draining, then I'll use the opportunity to wash the filter sponge and everything. I wash it in the old water that's leaving the tank. I haven't really needed to actually give it a rinse with fresh water or anything like that. Again, I haven't been in such a bad situation yet. Um, and then yeah, obviously feeding. That's probably a big one. So I do only one feed a day. I've noticed. Okay, let's put it this way: my clownfish are still very small, so that might pick
Yeah.
up. So my biggest clownfish is maybe 3-4 centimeters long. So yay big. So they don't mean much.
Yeah.
So I feed a little bit out of my container at night, and whatever falls to the floor, which has also surprised me, they'll go eat afterwards. Everyone's always told me clownfish are more opportunistic eaters, and they like food in the water column. I've very much observed mine eating off the floor, and they're happy to eat off the floor as well.
Yeah.
So I kind of gauged it of if I see they've eaten everything quickly off the floor, then the next night I just feed a little bit more, so it hangs around a bit longer. But then that's where my overfeeding kind of started.
Yeah.
So then I start getting a little bit of the detritus and everything like that. But then my two little Nacerius snails do their job. They clean it up. So you'll see there's some dark patches, there's some light patches, but overall happy days there. My light is on an automatic timer that's integrated into it, so it turns itself on, turns itself off. I think I've got it on about 9 hours a day at the moment
Okay.
because I just saw the corals were looking for that.
Is that a light that you bought differently, or is that the standard
No, so
T8
this
bulbs?
is a Haiger 107, which is a marine tank light. I will say that then that is starting to get where your budgets start feeling it. I think it was about 2.5. So that's probably what felt the most when I was doing everything. But again, initially I was never going to do coral. It was always just going to be the clownfish, and then you don't need the light, and then you can go with your normal everyday 300 Rand LED tube that you would put in a freshwater tank. So the light was, I would say, my splurge moment. But again, for such a small tank, this light, if I put another tank next to it, if I raised it up a bit, I can have the same light for both. So that was kind of the plan when I did buy it. It will never be dedicated to just this tank because the plan is always to get another small one. So then I can actually just put the light over both, raise it up because it's on its lowest intensity at the moment as well. If I just boost its intensity, it'll fully cover both tanks very easily.
That's pretty cool.
Of which you wouldn't normally see in the community. I think they might just look down on it a little bit. I think what I've seen online, people tend to almost keep tanks away from each other for some reason, which I don't understand. You don't typically see people with their tanks right next door to each other unless you're in the shop.
I know Fred's busy thinking about ways to connect two of his tanks, and possibly with little tubes or something running.
Yeah, you make a little siphon between the two, and you have one pump pulling water from the other.
Yeah, it's quite a cool concept.
Yeah, so it's definitely something I will do in the future. Because there is potentially other fish that I'm interested in. But I think just because my tank is small, you don't want to crowd it.
100%.
So maybe a cleaner ratio, and then maybe a little sand sifting gobby. But that would be like the complete limit for my tank. To give you a number, this is about a 25-liter tank. So 4 fish in 25 liters, you're starting to knocking on the door of trouble there. But yeah, I think for maintenance side, that's pretty much my deal.
It's very cool. And then, any plans for the future with this? Obviously, you mentioned you're thinking of a second tank. Would that kind of be similar sort of style, or would you go a bit more reef side on that?
So what I want to do one day, potentially still in this tank, is find some macroalgae, especially from what I see at the aquarium. I'm a sucker for grassy looks, so that's probably going to be what I go for, just to mess around. And I want to see how the clownfish are going to interact with it, because I don't think I'll ever be able to put an anemone in such a small tank. If it wants to move around, its chances of bulldozing something that's in its way is pretty high, because everything's very on top of each other. So maybe if I get some advice in saying this one is very happy in very easy areas, then I'll consider it. Because there is always that thing of anemones settle themselves in a spot they like. You can't just put them somewhere. So I would love to be able to just put him somewhere and hope he stays. But if he moves around, that might just cause a little bit of an issue. And then I think there's a little bit of a plan in my head at the moment for the near future. Not necessarily for the biofiltration. I do want some more live rock, because I'm seeing the clownfish are interacting with the small piece that I do have. I've got a piece like that big in my tank. They are interacting with it, and they're liking the like the texture. What's the
Yeah.
that sensory effect? And I'm seeing they want to use it more, but my piece of pulsing xenia is on it, and they'd go nowhere near the xenia. So I'm thinking to myself, get them in their own rock, put it in their little home. So they're kind of, I'm going to call it a bed because I've literally seen them lie down on it. So I'm calling it their bed. Especially when the little hair algae grows, they almost like it more. So that's the plan. It would be cool to see if they do breed. Considering I do have a male-female pair, I don't think it'll be successful. I would have to change my filtration because all the babies will just get sucked up. So we'll see what happens. I won't stop them. Let's put it that way. And they seem happy. So we'll see in a few months when they mature if they are up to it, and then possibly if I find small shrimp, they'll stay small. Let's put it that way. I might just add a small shrimp, maybe a small crab. I'm a bit hesitant with the crabs. I've heard people saying, they crabs harass the snails, and I've only got 4 snails. So I don't exactly want to be buying snails over and over and over again, as cheap as they are. So I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe one day if I have more snails and I can risk a crab killing a snail, then I'll do it. But I've only got 4. So they're just as important as my fish.
You might want to try a sexy shrimp because they're quite small.
Yeah, so we'll definitely, because I think it'll be cool to see something actually moving along the sand bed. That's pretty much why I want something. Besides the 2 nacerius snails, because they hide away the whole time. They come out, and when they do come out, they with force, they pretty much bulldoze things by themselves as well. But it'll be cool to see something daily moving around, because those snails, they're out for about an hour or 2, and then they're gone for the rest of the day. I do see them working, so that's always fun. But like now, I wouldn't be able to find them even if I tried.
I still don't know if mine are still alive or if they're just hiding from me.
Now, normally I can see their snorkel, but it's been about a day, and I haven't been able to find either of their snorkels. So I think they might be under the pots.
Every couple of weeks, when I think they're finally no longer around, they then suddenly show up the following night, and then they're like, "Nope, I'm still around," and then I don't see them for another month.
They've been good.
They're interesting. And then, do you have any tips for beginners or anything you wish you knew before?
Talk to locals. That's always the best thing. What I picked up on, I'll say I learned a lot from YouTube, but the international community is very different to local. I'll say it that way. Both can be positive, but I think local was a big up for me. Talking to people that are nearby, especially being able to give me advice on things in the area, shops in the area, people that can help me in the area, has been so much better than just asking somebody online. I've interacted with a few people who have live streams and stuff, and then I asked them, like, why is the community just so different? And they say, exchange rates and this and this and that, and where you are in the area, if you're coastal, if you're inland. I think the big thing for me was finding locals, finding a group chat, which was probably my biggest win. Funny enough, it was only after I bought the tank, after I got the fish, that I then found the group chat. If I found the group chat beforehand, this probably would have been 50 times easier. So I would say if people are looking, find chats before you buy, talk to people before you buy, not necessarily to sway you, still have what you want to do. Your plan is your plan. Don't let people change your plan. They can guide you so you don't do something wrong. But I'll be very honest, there's been a lot of advice that I've not necessarily ignored. I won't say ignored. But when people say, you need live rock, you don't. You just need filtration. And my filtration is in my sand, And that's where my live rock is. So that type of thing of, no one's wrong. I'll put it that way. I've seen experts disagree with each other. Be open to advice. That's always the best thing. I will say from my side especially, I wouldn't give advice because I'm starting out, but I say I experienced this and this is what I did to fix it. So nobody can tell me I'm wrong. That kind of a thing of something happened, I did this and it worked. Because somebody might have a 200 liter tank and their fix is replacing 25 liters of water. 25 liters of water would send my tank bone dry. So that type of thing of just being cognizant of your own setup, learn your own setup especially. Nobody knows your setup besides you. That's who told me that? Somebody. But nobody knows your setup. You do. So you know what's going on in your tank, especially if you don't know what's going on. You tell someone, I've got this amount of liters, that's what's in my tank, this, that, that's the type of filter, that's the type of heater. Then they can help you more. If you just tell someone, I've got an algae bloom, what do I do? The advice you're going to get is going to be so varied because they don't know your setup. So I'm going to say that. Those 3 points, I think it was. And enjoy it. Enjoying it has been always my key thing for getting into this. It's more of a, an emotional investment as much as it is money. It's your tank, it's your fish, your corals, your algae. Look after them, look at them, watch them. They're interesting creatures. That's something I probably spend the most amount of time doing as well. Besides cleaning, I would say I spend 3 times more looking at my tank than actually maintaining my tank.
That's the way it should be.
Yeah, I bring up my camping chair and I put my camping chair in front of my tank and I just watch. So I'm gonna say that as well. Of acknowledge that it is an emotional investment. It's the same as any other pet. It's probably easier than other pets, I would say. Food is way cheaper. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much me, I would say, summed up.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, and obviously you've shared so much of the club, and we hope to have you on here again in the future. Hopefully
Awesome, yeah. Hopefully
it's a bit more updated.
Yeah, hopefully I've got I'll call it an 8th or 9th month update when nobody can claim it's a starter tank anymore.
Thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you.